Hello and welcome to New Videocast. I'm Layla Swan and I lead communications at New. Today we're joined by Lívia Chains, CEO of Nubank Brazil, and she's here to talk about our growth, impact, and what's ahead for our future operations. Welcome, Lívia.
Thank you so much, Layla. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. Thank you for the invitation.
Let me start by a recent announcement we made back in December, which was that Nubank Brazil plans to obtain a banking license in the country.
Right.
And this announcement was made after resolution number 17 from the Central Bank and the National Monetary Council. And that resolution is about standardizing brand usage for financial institutions. There was a lot of buzz around that announcement. Can you tell us a little bit about what's going to change or not change?
So, as we announced, we do have the intention of adding a banking license into our conglomerate. But in practical terms, nothing is going to really change for our customers. There are no immediate or any foreseeable implications for the product offer that we have. We continue to follow with our existing strategy. And the truth is that in Brazil, we already have a bunch of licenses that allow us to offer the products that we have in the shelf. Mm-hmm. So we have a payments institution license, a credit and financing license, an investing license, and also an insurance brokerage license. All of those are part of our conglomerate. Our conglomerate is also already supervised according to the S2 classification that we received from the central bank. Okay. So adding this new license into our business structure is not really going to change anything, neither for customers, neither in terms of capital structure. Mm-hmm. The truth is that we are happy to say that we have the most valuable brand in the country, according to some recent studies, and we want to preserve that. Mm-hmm. So in order to comply with the new regulation, we're going to, be adding that license, as I mentioned, into a conglomerate, but it's really immaterial in terms of the business model and any foreseeable impact for our customers or our capital structure.
For sure. And I think we heard some buzz in the internet, right? Because the resolution says if you have bank in your brand name, then you need to have a banking license.
Exactly.
And customers were asking, well, does that mean Nubank's going to change its name, or does that mean you're going to start building brick and mortar agencies? Yeah. So actually nothing is changing.
No,
right?
Not at all. We will remain with our visual identity, and we're going to keep the Nubank brand that is, as I mentioned, right, already part of, the Brazilian population reality. So we want to protect it at all costs, but we won't change anything. And there's nothing putting Nubank at risk at this point because of this regulation. We're going to be happy to comply within the timeline that the central bank determined to us.
So, Lívia, nothing is changing because of this resolution and announcement, but so much has changed over 2025, and it's been a stellar year. Can you tell us a little bit of the top line numbers?
No, absolutely. I think 2025 was an amazing year for Nubank in Brazil. I'm super happy with the results. And I think across all metrics, we saw such a material positive trajectory that is really rewarding, right, to all of us. Just to start with, in terms of number of customers, we entered 2025 with around 100 million customers in Brazil. And we closed 2025 with more than 110 million customers in Brazil. That represents more than 60, actually around 61% of the entire adult population being customers to Nu. And this is such an important impact in the country, right? And such a demonstration of the trust that the Brazilians have deposited in us, that we take that with a lot of responsibility and also a lot of pride. So we're super happy with that. But, number of customers is not the only metric we were happy with, because we're not in the business of just adding new CPFs, right, into our customer base. So as we grow, we continue to observe that the activity rate in our accounts remain extremely high. Mm-hmm. And not only that, but the principality that is observed in our accounts is also super high. So we estimate that around 60% of our customers in Brazil choose Nubank to be their primary account across all banks they operate in. And this is again, this is a reinforcement that it's not only like about growth for growth, but it's meaningful growth and really kind of deepening the relationship that we have with those customers,
which will reflect in our RPAC.
Absolutely.
As well, right?
As a result of that, we also see an increase in our participation in market share in the main products and also in the average revenue per active customer that you were alluding to. Our RPAC this year is going to reach around $13 per customer, and with a substantial growth year over year too. As a kind of reflection of how much people are kind of bringing their financial lives to Nu and adding more and more of our products into their choice.
So, Livia, this reminds me, when I did my first video cast last year with Davi, we were actually talking about customer growth, and I asked him, are we going to run out of Brazilians to grow customers from? And he told me, of course not, Leila. There's so much more ahead. So I wanted to ask you too, what comes after all this growth?
Right.
What are the next steps?
Perfect. So I think, look, to start with the number of customer question, which is a very common one. Yes, we reached 61% of the population. There's still 39 out there, right? And I think we're going to continue to keep improving our products and our acquisition machine to make sure that more and more of those customers also become our customers. So we still have a lot ahead of us, of course, right?
Yes.
One day we're going to run out of customers, out of Brazilians, but we still have some room to grow. I would also highlight that in the different demographics, if you look, for example, at the under 18 population, which is a population that has been growing a lot in terms of representation in our customer base, it's also a very important pool in terms of customer growth. We have other subsegments that are smaller in terms of number of customers, like small businesses, but that are also super important to add into our revenue in our business lines because of the different essence of that type of customer, right? That type of so you have fewer customers, but that in general, right, have much more potential in terms of revenue because the financial lives that are a little bit more complex than an average individual.
So we have some market share to gain in some of these segments.
So I think we have like growth in number of customers, we have this growth in adjacencies, and even in our existing products, we observe that our market share has still a lot of space for us to kind of just grow within the population that has chosen to be primary bank account with Nu. We are seeing an increase in share of wallet across all products. Cohort after cohort. So we're seeing that trajectory, but we're far from being close to a ceiling. So there is still a lot for us to grow Nubank in Brazil, right? We're far from reaching any kind of constraint, and we're going to continue to be working to, so that customers choose us more and more whenever they need to pick a financial product.
That was actually a really big theme as I saw you work throughout the year, you know, trying to recognize and reward customer loyalty.
Yes.
What are the few things that we have done throughout the year, and can you bring us some numbers?
Yeah, it's super interesting that you bring this up because given that we already have 61% of the adult population, plus the SMEs, plus the under 18 accounts, just to name a few, growth also comes from deepening loyalty. It's not only coming from net new customers that we add to the customer base. We launched some features in that respect, and we intend to do much more looking forward. So the first thing that we did was to enhance our Money Box offer. Offering larger yields, higher yields for customers that actually concentrate their financial lives with us.
The turbo money boxes.
Yes, Caixinhas Turbo, right?
Yeah.
In Portuguese. And we did see an important impact that this product has in our deposits growth, that in aggregate was more than 40% year over year. Yes, in 2025.
Because you're rewarding them where it matters, right?
Correct. And I think like being transparent, right? About, you bring your money, you get something. Right, this is what people expect these days: transparency and a kind of a two-way relationship that is good for everyone. We've also done a lot of co-branded efforts with some of our partners to provide experiences and special benefits to customers in their stores or in their apps, right? Depending on the partner. So we had some big stunts with Burger King, iFood, Shopee, right, for the Black Friday, just to name a few. There were many others that participated with us. And I think joining forces with those powerful brands Uber was also a very big one, right? Joining forces with these powerful brands that are at the center of what our customers do for their living is also a way for us to get closer to their reality and for them to see the value that Nu tries to bring to them beyond the financial
Of
products
course, you're
themselves.
inserted in the lifestyle.
Correct.
Right?
Be where the customers are versus trying to bring them, to us like more in a more selfish way of seeing the world.
Of course. And can you tell us a little bit about, the customers who might be facing some difficulties and they
Yes.
fall behind on their payments? I know we have a big focus on doing
Yes.
that right.
No, that's a great point because typically when we talk about loyalty, we talk a lot about benefits and giving something. But the reality is that it's part of the life of the Brazilians to go, to many Brazilians, to go over a cycle of collections, right? To being in debt, being late in their financial commitments. And we do see that. We take that with a lot of responsibility. And in the efforts that we put together to also reward our loyal customers, we created specific programs for those customers to renegotiate their debts at very special conditions so that we could take them out of the critical situation and also show them that we're here for them for the long term.
Yeah.
And we're not going to be there in the happy days, and in the rainy days we're going to just treat them as if nothing really had happened in the past. So we put a lot of effort in improving our policies to renegotiate customers' debt, and we saw an important impact, right? So we got more than almost like 4 million customers that got their credit cards back last year after clearing their debts. We do see a bunch of customers, more than 75% of our customers that entered collections that were cured in 12 months. And
That's impressive.
Yes, it is. Because I think, again, Leila, our objective here is to build these relationships for the long term, right? And we know that people, especially people that have volatile incomes and face economic downturns here in Latin America, they need this kind of flexibility because they are going to have ups and downs in their financial life. So just looking at the ups, again, it's a very short-sighted way for us to really build a relationship that matters and to earn the trust of the customers that we value so much.
And what have you been hearing from the customers? Because I know you like to go deep into that.
Yeah. So I spend a lot of my time listening to customers, understanding what they're saying about it. Also, kind of shadowing some customer calls and chats to see how our customer service team is helping them when they need us. And I think the response and the feedback has been super positive. I think in terms of brand perception, as I mentioned, we did see that we were recognized as one of the most valuable brand in the country last year. We are seeing the deepening of the relationship, right? We're seeing the NPS numbers go up. So all the metrics are pointing to the right direction. And I think what I value the most is when we see spontaneous reactions about Nubank, in social media, or when we see spontaneous reactions, people, create songs about us. For me, this is a massive recognition of how much we're able to really kind of be meet customers where they are, right? And they see us as peers, right? And not as any kind of...
Who would have imagined like 10 years ago that people would be writing love songs to their banking institution?
You see, it's crazy, right? But that's what we're planting, right? You plant the seed, you earn the trust, you plant the transparency, you try to be fair. And I think the recognition is coming.
And we're doing pretty well on the central bank rankings for complaints as
well.
Oh,
absolutely. I think our customer service has always been a trademark for Nubank's quality, and it continues to be, right? We track very closely all the metrics in terms of satisfaction and resolution for all the contacts that we receive from customers. All numbers are trending up, even if they are already operating at very high levels. We've been ranked, I think, for 4 consecutive quarters as the institution in the Bacen complaint rank with the lowest number of complaints.
Despite our size.
Yes,
right?
Exactly. It's not like we don't have customers, right? We're not small, but yet we continue to preserve the level of quality, and that reflects in how our customers trust us and do not complain about us in those channels. And I think another good recognition was that for the 9th consecutive year, we also got awarded with the Reclame Aqui prize, right?
Which is pretty important in Brazil.
It's super important. And again, the operation grows, the product portfolio gets more complex, right? People are saying, oh, one day, they're going to drop the ball. We pay so much attention and so much care to, customer service that we've proven that we can scale the model of high quality
at a low price,
at a low cost, right? Very low
without
cost,
sacrificing the customer.
Without sacrificing the customer, because we leverage technology, right? We empower people, our agents, our ex-peers are empowered to solve customers' problems, and we incentivize them to empathize, to be human, right? Because at the end of the day, customers understand that we might have problems, but they want to be treated with respect, right? And you want people to understand that their problem matters a lot, right? It's not another problem.
And they don't want to be in that situation. They just want a hand to get out.
Exactly, right? Exactly. And so I'm very proud of what our operations team has delivered this year. And I'm also very happy to see that customers continue to feed us with feedbacks so that we can improve our products, that we improve also our customer service. We're not perfect. We have issues too, but we try to be as fair as possible. And
how does that feedback loop work, Livia? Can you describe a little bit about where do you hear the feedback and how do you take action?
Absolutely. So I think many companies today say that they do a lot of customer research, right, to develop products. They are customer centric and etc. We also do that. But I think the main source of insight to us relies on customer service. So basically, we have a system that listens to all the context that we receive from 100% of our customers, and we stack rank those based on frequency of how satisfied or dissatisfied a customer is to call us or to chat with us for a specific reason. We collect the feedback, we feed it back into the product teams so that they can improve the product. Sometimes they need to fix the product. Sometimes they need to improve the product, right? Or sometimes there is an idea for a new product that they say, oh, this is a pretty good idea, right? And we feed it back to the customers.
And our customers are collaborative. They want to build stuff with us. They make suggestions.
Right? We have New Community, which is a subset of our customers that is even more engaged. But we take that to the 110 million customers that we have in Brazil. And we made it really scalable as a source of insight to what they need through this process flow that we work. And the CX team, as peers, had that with the product team. So it flows into the org. So all new bankers, right, actually know what customers are saying about their product on a regular basis. And many of our product managers and tech teams also do shadowing in our customer service to hear firsthand, right, what the customers are saying, because I think nothing really replaces human interaction. I read a lot of reports, but every time I read a call, I say, oh my God, there's so much we could be doing that we're just missing in the numbers, right? And I think staying close to reality and to, this human relationship is at the core of what we try to do.
Absolutely. It's a best practice for any digital company, right?
Yes.
You can't just live in a cloud. You have to be there.
So what I typically say, it's because we're digital, we need to be, 10x more human. Yes. In the way we create our products, in the way we interact with our customers.
Yeah. So we've been talking a little bit about, the micro relationships with our customers, but shifting our lens to the macro perspective on our impact, industry-wide. We've been promoting inclusion. We've been increasing competition in the sector. And there's a lot of impacts that have started to be measured in that sense. So I'm going to break this down a little bit. Do you want to tell us about inclusion first, financial inclusion?
No, that's a great segue. I think I talked a lot about the business itself, but when we look at the impact that Nubank has had in Brazil in general, it's just massive. It's been 12 years. It's not that long ago, right? But yet, just some numbers for us to keep in perspective. I think we have almost 30 million people that got their first account or credit card, right? Thanks to Nu. That's massive. This is an important representation of the Brazilian population that changed the life and the way that many families interacted with money, right? In addition to that, we've been able to extend our credit portfolio beyond credit card, which was our first product. As of today, our lending portfolio already represents around 30% of the entire credit portfolio. And we've not only that, but we've been expanding to modalities with lower interest rates too, that can leverage collaterals for us to be able to underwrite more customers at lower rates. for example, the growth in consignado, right? Payroll loans. I'm sorry for the Portuguese. FGTS, prepayment, private payroll. That was a new product that started this year that we're kind of starting to grow too. Also material. We doubled the size of this portfolio that we called secured lending variants.
And the scale happened just in 2025.
Yes, just
right?
in 2025. And still there's a lot to do there, right? Our market shares is still low considering our level of penetration in the population. So still a lot to do there. To also allow people to leverage credit responsibly, and as I mentioned,
that's the key word I was gonna
absolutely,
catch you
right.
on, right?
Responsibly and choosing the best product for themselves, and also kind of being able to repay us back and continue with us over the long run, because that's what we're solving for.
And Livia, we also have some data showing the impact on general interest rates in the market, right?
Right, that's true. So there is a study that the IMF published that attributed to fintechs. And of course, we know Nubank is an important contributor to the impact of fintechs in Brazil, that has actually shown a drop of 2.9 percentage points in the interest rates in the country as a result of the increased competition and product offer, right? So this is material impact from a third party that is super reliable, that is showing the positive financial impact that not only Nubank, but all the fintechs have deployed in the market. So it's another great data point. And as I was saying, I think this relationship of Brazilians with credit is something that we take with a lot of responsibility, right? And we are in the mission of, helping people, empowering people to really leverage those products as tools to have a sustainable financial life. So we're extending our credit offer. Yes, of course we are. We're gaining share of wallet. Yes, we are. We're also very proud to say that customers that happen to go late in their debts also have a very solid recovery path with Nubank. Right? 75% of them, as I mentioned, get out of debt in 12 months. And we're continuously working to rescue those customers and put them back on track and teach them how to use credit again. So that they can, have a sustainable.
And they keep coming back. They trust us, and so it's a cycle, right?
It's a cycle.
It's a flywheel.
Yes, it's a flywheel. They keep coming back, and again, we're very respectful of the ups and downs of the lives of our customers, because we know, everybody might get in trouble from time to time, and we need to be here for them when they do need us.
Yeah, I see your team working very consistently on earning the trust every day, like not taking anything for granted.
Yes.
Livia, at the turn of the year, we were still, the third largest financial institution in Brazil. We're very close to becoming the second largest one. And that has also triggered a lot of conversation, especially coming from competitors, and we don't have to really address that directly, but there is a claim that was very concerning at the end of the year, which was about us not paying our fair share of taxes in the country. And I think a correction was in order, right?
Yes, absolutely. So I think we always try to take these external challenges with data-based arguments, right? And as we look at numbers, right, the numbers speak for themselves. A lot has been said about the percentage rate that institution type A or B are actually entitled to pay based on the regulation. But none of our competitors mentioned the absolute amount of taxes that each of the players in the market has actually paid. And when we look at those numbers, Nubank was the institution that paid the largest amount of taxes by far in Brazil in 2025. And I think this is also a proof that our model, can include people. We can have a good business, right? An efficient business, but also give back to society. And we're doing our part, right? And the numbers are, official numbers that all the players actually kind of publish in their earnings results. So I think it's very important that people stay true to facts, right, versus speculation. And that's what we try to do. So again, I think we've always been super diligent in how we handle our commitments to the public sector, to governance and regulation. And taxes is another example of that, right?
Yeah, of course. It's a win-win-win situation.
It's a
right?
win-win-win situation, right? And so I invite anybody that has doubts to compare the absolute numbers
Yeah.
that are
And
public.
I love hearing you and Davi always saying, don't worry about that. Let's just keep focusing on the customer.
Yes.
Let's, ensure that regulation gives us fair competition and gives us the opportunity to innovate and let the best player win, right?
Exactly. So we're working here to kind of make our customers happier, right? We're not here in the business of attacking anybody. And again, I think facts are unquestionable, and we should stick to facts when asserting those kinds of affirmations about other companies. But we're cool, we're focused, right? That means that our success is also materializing, right? Beyond the walls of our headquarters. So we also see that as a sign of recognition of the market.
Of course, and let's stay focused. And speaking of staying focused, we're kicking off a new year now.
Yes.
All this growth, all this success, how do we work to not let that get in the way? Make us complacent? How do we keep our insurgent mindset? How do we keep this operation running with the startup energy, and still trying to do all this work for the customer?
So we don't take anything for granted, right? We stay humble. We still have a lot to do. There's a lot of work for us to do in Brazil. A lot of energy that we put in listening to our customers and understanding and being humble, and also trying to give back as much as we can to them and to society in general. We're going to continue to do that, right? I think Brazil plays an important role of showing the scale that Nubank can have in the market. We have broader aspirations, right, beyond Brazil.
We certainly do.
We do, but we still have a lot to do in Brazil, right?
Yeah.
I just mentioned some of the things, so you can expect a lot of new products, new ideas coming up, and I think the respect for quality and for our customers should remain as high, right?
Of course.
So still day one for Brazil, Leila.
Of course, and you're right. We do have a lot of aspirations, but we're not going to lose focus on our core market, which is Brazil.
Not at all.
Livia, thank you so much for this chat. I really enjoyed it, and I want to thank all our listeners for staying till the end.
Thank you, Leila. It's a pleasure to be here with you all.